This is America in the Morning from Westwood One. Good morning, I'm John Trout. It's Thursday, September 19th, 2024. Here's what's coming up on America in the Morning.
The House of Representatives fails to pass a 6-month stopgap funding bill, opening the door to a potential government shutdown. I'm John Stolnis in Washington.
The Teamsters holding off on a presidential endorsement.
This country is divided down the middle.
I'm Clayton Neville.
Sean Combs lost his second bid to be released on bail until his trial. I'm Kevin Carr.
The Justice Department is filing a civil lawsuit against the owner and manager of the Dolly, the ship that caused the collapse of the Francis Scott Key Bridge. I'm Jennifer King.
On Wall Street, the Fed cut interest rates by 0.5%, making it cheaper for businesses and consumers to borrow money. I'm Jessica Ettinger.
The latest on the manhunt for an interstate sniper in Kentucky and getting D.C. ready for the next inauguration. All ahead on America in the Morning. With the deadline to avoid a government shutdown just 2 weeks away, the House of Representatives failed to pass a 6-month continuing resolution that included an election integrity bill disliked by Democrats. John Stolnis has the story.
On this vote, the yeas are 202, the nays are 220, 2 voting present. The bill is not passed.
14 Republicans and all but 3 Democrats voted against the bill, which would have funded the government through March of next year. In order to encourage Republicans who typically vote against stopgap spending bills, House Speaker Mike Johnson added the SAVE Act to the measure, a bill passed over the summer that would require proof of citizenship in order to vote in federal elections. After the vote, the Speaker expressed his disappointment.
The play that we ran tonight was the right play. It's the right fight for the American people. It's the one that they demand and deserve.
Just before the vote, House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries took to the House floor, claiming Republicans are using the threat of a government shutdown as a political weapon.
That's not hysteria. That's not hyperbole. It's history. Because in the DNA of extreme MAGA Republicans has consistently been an effort to make extreme ransom demands of the American people. And if those extreme ransom demands are not met, you shut down the government.
Republican Congressman Robert Aderholt voted in favor of the bill, in large part because he says more than 3,000 people in his home state of Alabama had registered illegally and were taken off the rolls last month.
Mr. Speaker, these people should never have been allowed to register in the first place. And this is exactly what the SAVE Act will prevent.
So what's next? It's likely the Senate will now take the lead on a stopgap funding measure that will then hopefully pass the House. Former President Donald Trump said Republicans should vote to shut down the government if the SAVE Act is not a part of any temporary funding measure.
What the SAVE Act would have accomplished, as everyone knows, is to ensure that illegals and non-citizens cannot vote in the upcoming election. Right now, we have no mechanism for the states to require proof of citizenship before they register to vote. That is a serious problem.
Speaker Johnson says they're going to get back to work.
We'll draw up another play, and we'll come up with a solution. I'm already talking to colleagues about their many ideas. We have time to fix the situation, and we'll get right to it.
John Stolnis, Washington.
Kamala Harris spent Wednesday addressing the Congressional Hispanic Caucus Institute's leadership conference in Washington. Donald Trump held a rally in Uniondale, New York. And while they campaigned, the Teamsters Union, for the first time in over 30 years, says it will not endorse any presidential candidate. Correspondent Clayton Neville reports.
The International Brotherhood of Teamsters and its nearly 1.5 million members will not be making an endorsement in the presidential election.
So I think this is the first time in many decades that they haven't endorsed Democrats.
Former President and Republican presidential nominee Donald Trump was correct. The last time the Teamsters didn't endorse a Democrat for the presidency was 1988. So while he didn't get the nod, Trump considers the no endorsement a win.
The vote of the Teamsters themselves was very high for me, and the leadership, Sean O'Brien and the group, who are great people, they said we can't endorse the Democrats.
The head of the union, Sean O'Brien, told Fox News that despite 60% of the union's rank and file preferring Trump over Vice President Harris, The decision not to endorse is still in line with what members want.
You know, the Democrats have always taken for granted that they're going to get our vote no matter what. And the Republicans fancy themselves as the working people's party. I think right now both sides have to take a step back and really reevaluate what their commitment is to working people.
He wanted to make clear on Fox that not taking a position is not having it both ways.
This country is divided down the middle. It's my goal, just like we've done with our union, is to bring this together, work bipartisan, and get some stuff done, like the PRO Act, like bankruptcy reform, and other issues that affect our members.
President Biden snagged the majority of the union endorsement before passing the torch to Kamala Harris, but the Teamsters holding off on going that far. I'm Clayton Neville.
Rapper trades mansion for prison cell. When America in the Morning continues after these messages. This is America in the Morning. On which part of the nation faces the greatest severe weather risk later today? Here's AccuWeather.com meteorologist LaTroy Thornton.
As a cold front continues to progress only slowly eastward across the nation's midsection, the threat for severe weather today will once again follow near and ahead of that feature in the upper Midwest, with thunderstorms through the evening hours capable of producing the full slate of modes of severe weather, including hail, downpours, damaging wind gusts, and even the chance for some tornadoes. The zone from southeastern Minnesota to northwestern Wisconsin faces the best chance for widespread powerful storms. However, a general risk for spotty storms also covers eastern Kansas and Oklahoma today. On the backside of the storm, hard-hit areas such as central Montana can finally start to dry out after a persistent rain event on Wednesday, with just some lingering showers expected today in the northeastern corner of the state and into far northwestern North Dakota. Otherwise, there should be a good bit of sunshine in the northwest and through the Four Corners region as high pressure generally holds firm. However, a storm continuing to hug the California coast means another day with a risk for some thunder showers, this time from the mountains outside of Los Angeles, north and eastward across much of Nevada. In the east, a storm centered to the south of the southern New England coastline should mean intermittent rain through the day from Boston across Cape Cod and parts of Rhode Island at times, but a zone of advancing high pressure farther inland actually brings a dry day from much of northern New England across the interior northeast and the eastern Great Lakes. Otherwise, showers linger from the mid-Atlantic through the Carolinas with spotty afternoon thunderstorms for the Florida Peninsula. Showers can dot the Louisiana coastline as well, but most places from Tennessee to Arkansas and even across Texas look dry. That's the weather across America. I'm AccuWeather.com meteorologist LaTroy Thornton.
Remember, you can follow us wherever you get your podcasts. Apple, Spotify, Amazon, and YouTube. Just search America in the Morning in your favorite listening app. I'm John Trout. Instead of a Florida mansion, he'll be locked away in a 6x8 prison cell. America in the Morning's Kevin Carr reports on the attempt by music mogul Sean Diddy Combs to stay out of jail.
Sean Diddy Combs won't be leaving jail anytime soon. On Wednesday afternoon, a second judge denied bail for the music mogul in his 3-count indictment. Combs' defense offered a $50 million bond secured with real estate, allowing him to remain in his Miami mansion. Prosecutors argued that Combs not only poses a flight risk, but that he has the means and motivation to contact witnesses in the case. Combs' lawyer, Mark Agnafilo, said he would be seeking a speedy trial.
I'm going to try and get his case to trial as quickly as possible. I'm going to try and minimize the amount of time he spends in very, very difficult and, I believe, inhumane housing conditions.
Combs was indicted on Tuesday for racketeering, sex trafficking, and transportation to engage in prostitution. He is currently being held at the Metropolitan Detention Center in Brooklyn. There was one piece of good news for Combs on Wednesday. A Michigan judge dismissed the $100 million default judgment in a sexual assault case. I'm Kevin Carr.
Saying they use Band-Aid fixes for urgently needed repairs, the Department of Justice is filing a lawsuit over the Baltimore bridge collapse, targeting the owner of the ship for damages. Correspondent Jennifer King reports.
The action seeks recovery of more than $100 million in damages and costs incurred by the United States in responding to the fatal disaster and reopening access to the Port of Baltimore.
Benjamin Miser is the Principal Deputy Associate Attorney General.
Those costs should be be borne by the ship's owner and operator, not the American taxpayer.
The case alleges that Dolly's owner, Grace Ocean Private Limited, and the manager, Synergy Marine Group, both of Singapore, cut corners on the ship's electrical and mechanical systems.
When this transformer failed, the power should have automatically shifted to another transformer almost immediately. But per long-standing practice, this automation had been recklessly disabled, which led to excessive delay in regaining power.
Acting Deputy Assistant Attorney General Clayton Neville says the collision was preventable.
Excessive vibration was a long-standing problem on the ship, which Grace Ocean and Synergy sought to remedy with makeshift aftermarket fixes that fell well short of appropriate standards.
The collapse killed 6 members of a roadwork crew. On Tuesday, the victims' families declared their intent to hold the ship's owner and manager liable. I'm Jennifer King.
When we return on America in the Morning, Fed cuts interest rates and reducing prescription drug costs. After these messages. Welcome back and thanks for listening. You're with America in the Morning. The Business Report is brought to you by Fisher Investments. Fisher Investments takes a disciplined approach with investing, helping clients navigate volatile markets. Learn more at FisherInvestments.com. Here's CNBC's Jessica Ettinger.
Wall Street opens this morning after the Fed cut interest rates by 0.5%, bigger cut than many thought would happen. The Dow and the S&P 500 index each touched fresh record highs after the announcement before pulling back. Now, the Federal Reserve has a double mandate: maximum employment and low inflation. And after raising interest rates to cool the economy and bring down inflation, which worked, the Fed chair says it's now time to cut interest rates to make sure businesses can keep borrowing and keep hiring.
We had a historically tight labor market. There was a severe labor shortage. The risks were on inflation. That said to us, concentrate on inflation. And we did. Part of bringing down inflation, though, is cooling off the economy and a little bit cooling off the labor market. It's time to change our stance. So we'd made a good, strong start on that.
Fed Chair Jay Powell. The cost of borrowing is on its way down as more cuts occur. You will pay less on credit card balances you carry and on adjustable loans like adjustable rate mortgages. Boeing is now starting to furlough a large number of white-collar employees as machinists continue striking. The company froze hiring earlier this week to save money. Alaska Airlines has been given the go-ahead to buy Hawaiian Airlines by the Department of Transportation. And Alaska's CEO Ben Minicucci told CNBC why the planes are still going to fly under their original names.
Both the Alaska brand and the Hawaiian brand have so much history, over 90 years of history and culture. So traditionally, when you do a merger, you bring it all into one brand. We thought this was the best approach because they are special. The name Alaska and the name Hawaiian means so much.
Alaska CEO Ben Minicucci on CNBC.
The Biden administration eyeing one drug in particular to make more affordable for seniors.
Well, it turns out it's one a lot of people want. Ozempic could get less expensive for Medicare recipients.
Ozempic is very likely to be one of the drugs targeted for a price cut in bargaining with the U.S. government's Medicare program. That's according to comments from a senior executive from Novo Nordisk. The Inflation Reduction Act allows the U.S. to directly negotiate drug prices with manufacturers. In the first round of bargaining earlier this year, it slashed the cost of 10 of the world's biggest medicines by anywhere from 38 to 79%.
CNBC's Joe Kernan. On today's watch list, earnings are coming from Olive Garden parent Darden Restaurants and FedEx. We find out how many people applied for unemployment benefits last week. We get existing home sales numbers for August. The lockup expires today for former President Trump. He's allowed to sell his shares of Trump Media.
CNBC's Jessica Ettinger. When we return, preparing the nation's capital for the presidential inaugural. When America in the Morning continues after these messages. This is America in the Morning. Kentucky State Police say a body has been found in the area near where several people were shot off Interstate 75 almost 2 weeks ago. Despite a massive manhunt, it was 2 people who came upon a body in a wooded area near an I-75 exit ramp, just as 2 Kentucky State troopers saw vultures circling the same area and were heading there to search. The body is believed to be 32-year-old Joseph Couch, the prime suspect who allegedly shot at cars on the heavily traveled interstate highway, seriously wounding 5 people. For the past 12 days, the small town of London, Kentucky, has been forced to cancel community events and in-school classes while the search for Couch was active. With the U.S. election less than 7 weeks away, preparations are already underway for the presidential inaugural. Correspondent Ed Donahue is following details.
Congressional leaders from both parties hammered in the first nails of the project. The last stage became part of the Capitol riot. There was no direct mention of the attack. Minnesota Democratic Senator Amy Klobuchar pointed out the importance of this work.
The peaceful transfer of power.
Earlier, Speaker Mike Johnson took aim at Democrats for describing Donald Trump as a threat to democracy, but also called on everybody to scale back their attacks.
So let's have a vigorous debate on the policy differences, on the records. But let's turn the rhetoric down because we're not going to be able to sustain that.
Workers who were putting finishing touches almost 4 years ago had to quickly get out as supporters of Donald Trump closed in. They later had to clean up the debris and rebuild parts of the stage for President Biden's inauguration 2 weeks later. Ed Donahue, Washington.
America in the Morning for Thursday, September 19th, 2024 is produced by Jeff McKay. Senior producer Kevin Delaney. I'm John Trout. This is Westwood One. This is America in the Morning from Westwood One. I'm John Trout. Coming up this half hour.
The Federal Reserve is signaling an end to its fight against the worst inflation in 4 decades. Sagar Meghani, Washington.
Exploding Hezbollah pagers and walkie-talkies. The U.S. claims it had no prior knowledge.
A Vermont town official, his wife and her son were found shot dead in their home. I'm Rita Foley.
The FBI thwarts another Chinese hacker group. I'm tech correspondent Chuck Palm.
A longtime CIA officer has been sentenced to 30 years in federal prison. I'm Lisa Dwyer.
Balloons, trampoline, and apples to apples are part of the 12 finalists for the National Toy Hall of Fame. Julie Walker, New York.
Back after these messages. Welcome back here with America in the Morning, and where the rain is expected to be most intense today. Here's AccuWeather.com meteorologist LaTroy Thornton.
As a disturbance well off the New England coast meanders over the Atlantic Ocean today, the best risk for widespread steady rain will occur over southeastern New England, as areas from eastern Massachusetts to Rhode Island may be in line for a decent soaking from time to time on the fringes of precipitation from this storm. A cold front backing southward into Maine can bring a few showers as well, especially for the afternoon hours, but to the south and west across the rest of northern New England and the interior northeast, dry conditions win out for many with some sunshine. Even coastal areas from Connecticut to New York are in for a largely dry day, with rain likely skipping a zone from lower Michigan to western Ohio, much of the interior south, and southern and eastern parts of the Midwest. However, showers will linger from the high ground of West Virginia through the Carolinas as an active pattern continues over the region, and there can be showers in southern Louisiana, as well as a few afternoon thunderstorms for southern and eastern Florida. Most of Texas has a dry day in its future, but to the north, a cold front pushing eastward brings the chance for thunderstorms to eastern parts of Oklahoma and Texas, with a chance of thunderstorms turning severe from far northeastern Kansas northward across the border of Minnesota into Ontario. Any storms in this zone through this evening may bring strong wind gusts, hail, and even some tornadoes. For the west, a feature running nearly parallel to the central coast of California leads to another round of thunder showers today from Nevada southward to the high ground north and west of Los Angeles, with mainly dry conditions for the rest of the west. In Minneapolis, watch for what could be a potent afternoon thunderstorm with a high of 82. For Denver, expect sunshine much of the time and a high reaching 86 today. That's the nation's weather. I'm AccuWeather.com meteorologist LaTroy Thornton.
Remember, you can follow us wherever you get your podcasts: Apple, Spotify, Amazon, and YouTube. Just search America in the Morning in your favorite listening app. I'm John Trout. In an aggressive move, the Federal Reserve, as expected, cut interest rates for the first time in nearly 4 years, but the half-point cut was more than expected. A move economists say will help to lower everything from credit card bills to mortgages. Washington correspondent Sagar Meghani reports.
While Chair Jerome Powell is not signaling victory over inflation.
We're close, but we're not really at 2%. And I think we're going to want to see it be around 2% and close to 2% for some time. But we're certainly not we're not saying mission accomplished or anything like that. But I have to say, though, we're encouraged by the progress that we have made.
The central bank is encouraged by progress against inflation and is cutting its key rate for the first time in 4 years from a 2-decade high.
By a half percentage point.
It's a dramatic and unusually high cut.
We know that it is time to recalibrate our policy to something that is more appropriate given the progress on inflation and on employment, moving to a more sustainable level.
As it eases towards the Fed's 2% goal, while high rates helped tame price spikes, they've also made borrowing costs painfully expensive for Americans. Powell rejects suggestions the Fed waited too long to cut rates.
We think this is timely, but I think you can take this as a sign of our commitment not to get behind. So it's a strong move.
The Fed signaling another half-point cut this year as it shifts toward boosting a slowing job market.
Our patient approach over the past year has paid dividends. Inflation is now much closer to our objective, and we have gained greater confidence that inflation is moving sustainably toward 2%.
Sagar Meghani, Washington.
The Biden administration is claiming they had no advanced knowledge of a planned attack against Hezbollah that targeted pagers exploding across Lebanon, which killed 9 and injured more than 2,000. 24 hours after the event, handheld walkie-talkies also blew up throughout Lebanon, killing 20 and leaving the Lebanese people on edge for what could happen next. Correspondent Ben Thomas reports.
We've been very clear, and we remain very clear, about the importance of all parties avoiding any steps that could further escalate the conflict that we're trying to resolve in Gaza. The United States did not know about, nor was it involved in these incidents, and we're still gathering the information and gathering the facts.
In what appears to have been a sophisticated remote attack, pagers used by hundreds of members of Hezbollah exploded almost simultaneously in Lebanon and Syria Tuesday. Thousands were wounded and at least 9 killed, including an 8-year-old girl and members of Hezbollah. The militant group blamed Israel and vowed just punishment. The Israeli military declined comment, and the State Department spokesman Matthew Miller.
I can tell you that the U.S. was not involved in it. The U.S. was not aware of this incident in advance, and at this point we're gathering information.
But a U.S. official tells AP Israel briefed the U.S. on the operation on Tuesday after it was concluded. It involved small amounts of explosive inside the pagers. A Hezbollah official told AP they were a new brand that apparently been acquired after the group's leader ordered members in February to stop using cell phones, warning those could be tracked by Israeli intelligence.
Looking at the last couple of days, it's just a little too soon to know what kind of impact those incidents are going to have in the region writ large, particularly when it comes to the tensions up at the border with Lebanon. On the ceasefire deal and trying to get both sides back to the table, we're still working at that.
I'm Ben Thomas.
Residents of a Houston suburb will be allowed to go home after crews made progress on a natural gas pipeline fire that's been contained. The fire, which has been burning for over 48 hours, is now slowly diminishing, although officials warn it's not completely out. Fire started when an SUV went through a fence and hit a gas valve, causing it to rupture, sending a pillar of fire hundreds of feet into the air. The company responsible for the pipeline, Energy Transfer, says there's no exact timeline as to when the fire will be totally put out. Hawaii's Kilauea volcano is erupting again. It had erupted briefly last Sunday and resumed again Tuesday morning. During a helicopter overflight, geologists said they observed fountaining eruptive fissures and active lava flows, but authorities report no homes or structures will be impacted and no evacuations were ordered. America in the Morning continues. 3 women who helped America send a man to the moon were honored with a medal from Congress. Correspondent Ed Donahue reports.
The movie Hidden Figures was based on the story of Katherine Johnson, Dorothy Vaughan, and Mary Jackson.
The goal point for re-entry is 2,990 miles.
At a time in America when our nation was divided by color and often by gender, these women dared to step into the fields where they had previously been unwelcome.
House Speaker Mike Johnson says it's about time these women get this appropriate honor. Katherine Johnson's handwritten calculations helped John Glenn become the first American to orbit the Earth. NASA Administrator Bill Nelson says their lessons and legacy sent Americans to the moon and will bring them back. And then?
Just imagine when we leave our footprints on the red sands of Mars.
Also honored was Christine Darden, best known for research on sonic booms. Ed Donahue, Washington.
In New Jersey, Newark City Council President LaMonica McIver has won the special election to fill a vacant House seat representing New Jersey's 10th Congressional District. The Democrat will reserve the remainder of the term for the late Congressman Donald Payne Jr., who passed away in April. McIver and Republican Carmen Bucco will both be on the November ballot. When we return on America in the Morning, Iranian hackers offer Biden and Harris stolen Trump documents. What happened next? When America in the Morning continues after these messages. Welcome back. I'm John Trout. This is America in the Morning. A sleepy mountain town of just over 1,000 people in Vermont woke up in shock after police found 3 people shot to death in their home. Correspondent Rita Foley has the story.
A Paulette, Vermont town official, his wife, and her son were found shot dead in their home. All 3 deaths ruled homicides. Brian Crossman was 46, a select board member in Paulette. Erica Crossman was 41, and Colin Taft, her son, was 13. Police say their investigation is active. Nobody is in custody, but they say the indication at the moment is there is no threat to the community. Members of the Paulette Select Board are elected by residents to oversee town expenditures. They also enact ordinances. The chairman of the board said, "We are shaken and grieving." He called Brian Crossman a friend and neighbor. I'm Rita Foley.
The mayor of Atlantic City, New Jersey, and his wife were indicted on charges related to the alleged abuse of their teenage daughter. Mayor Marty Small Sr. and his wife, Laquetta Small, are accused of physically and emotionally abusing the girl on multiple occasions when she was 15 and 16 years old. During one alleged incident, the mayor is accused of hitting his daughter multiple times in the head with a broom, causing her to lose consciousness. The mayor's wife, who is the superintendent of Atlantic City Public Schools, is alleged to have hit the girl on several occasions. The Smalls have asserted their innocence, calling the situation a private family issue. Both the mayor and city school superintendent will continue in their current government positions. America in the Morning continues. Iranian hackers purportedly tried to interest President Joe Biden and the Kamala Harris campaign in documents said to have been stolen from Donald Trump. But instead, the FBI and other government investigators are now involved. Correspondent Haya Panjwani picks up on the story.
Iranian hackers sought to interest President Joe Biden's campaign in information stolen from rival Donald Trump's campaign, sending unsolicited emails to people associated with the then Democratic candidate in an effort to interfere in the 2024 election. That's according to the FBI and other federal agencies. The officials say there is no evidence that any of the recipients responded. Kamala Harris's presidential campaign called the emails from Iran unwelcome and unacceptable malicious activity. The announcement is the latest U.S. government effort to call out what officials say is Iran's brazen, ongoing work to interfere in the election, including a hack and leak campaign targeting Trump's campaign. Haya Panjwani, Washington.
He spent more than 20 years working for the CIA in positions around the world, but now he'll spend the next 30 years in prison, found guilty of committing sexual assaults against more than 24 women from 5 countries. Correspondent Lisa Dwyer reports.
A longtime CIA officer who drugged, photographed, and sexually assaulted more than 24 women around the world has been sentenced to 30 years in federal prison. Brian Jeffrey Raymond pleaded guilty last year in one of the most egregious misconduct cases in the CIA's history. Prosecutors say the assaults date back to 2006 and tracked his career in Mexico, Peru, and other countries, all following a similar pattern. Raymond would lure women he met on dating apps to his government-leased apartment and then drugged them while serving wine and snacks. Once they were unconscious, he spent hours posing their naked bodies, photographing and assaulting them. Raymond kept a record of his crimes in his library of more than 500 images. I'm Lisa Dwyer.
The head of the FBI has released information that they have thwarted yet another Chinese state-backed hacker group masquerading as an IT firm. Here's Chuck Palm with that in today's Tech Report.
The FBI has disrupted yet another Chinese hacking group, this one called Flax Typhoon, and has seized thousands of compromised devices from its grasp. FBI Director Christopher Wray said at a cybersecurity conference in Washington that Flax Typhoon was being run by a Chinese company called the Integrity Technology Group. The hackers posed as an IT firm, but also collected intelligence and performed reconnaissance for the Chinese government security agencies. An advisory was made public on Wednesday for British, Canadian, Australian, and New Zealand cyber officials and accused the Integrity Technology Group of compromising more than 250,000 devices all over the world. The Chinese embassy has said the FBI jumped to an unwarranted conclusion and made groundless accusations against China. This group's primary source of attack was a botnet created from thousands of network devices and deployed to attack networks at the same time. Follow me on X for more cybersecurity stories at Chuck Palm.
America in the Morning's Robert Workman has a check of Thursday sports.
Baseball Wednesday, the Brewers edged the Phillies 2-1, capping off a day when they clinched their third NL Central Division title in 4 years. Jake Bauer's walk-off RBI single in the ninth keyed the celebration, perhaps a little sweeter than the others, after the turnover from last year. Milwaukee saw manager Craig Counsell leave for the Cubs, traded ace Corbin Burns to the Orioles, and had number 2 starter Brandon Woodruff miss the entire season after shoulder surgery. Earlier in the day, the A's clipped the Cubs 5-3. That officially locked up the division crown for the Crew. Dodgers doubled up the Marlins 8-4. Shohei Ohtani stole his 49th base, inching closer to becoming the first 50-50 player ever. He's got 48 homers. All 3 NL wildcards won. Diamondbacks drilled the Rockies 9-4. Corbin Carroll sent 2 to the seats. Mets scored 9 times in the 4th and routed the Nationals 10-0. 3-hit pitching from Jose Quintana and company. Padres shut out the Astros 4-0. Dylan Cease took a 2-hitter into the 9th. Manny Machado homered twice, the latter coming in the middle of a back-to-back Jack attack in the 8th. Rangers blanked the Blue Jays 2-0. Cody Bradford and the Kodiaks with a 5-hitter. Guardians tipped the Twins in 10 innings. 2 big flies for Josh Naylor. Brian Rocchio had the walk-off hit in a 3-run 10th. Yankees sank the Mariners in 10 innings. Angels edged the White Sox in 13. That's 117 losses for the Pale Hose. Tarek Skubal got his 17th win as the Tigers trimmed the Royals.
Look at our season. We got off to a good start, and then we kind of slumped through the middle, and now look at us. I think that speaks to the guys in this room, and there's no quit. Giants
down the Orioles. Mike Yastrzemski with a leadoff homer for the second straight night. Red Sox shaded the Rays, Braves bashed the Reds, and the Cardinals scuttled the Pirates. NFL Week 3 begins tonight with the Patriots at the Jets. The Pro Football Hall of Fame yesterday announced its initial list of 167 modern-era candidates for the class of 2025. That includes 16 first-time eligible players, led by 2-time Super Bowl MVP Eli Manning. That's Thursday Sports.
Thank you, Robert. When we return on America in the Morning, Weinstein's new charges and new inductees to the Toy Hall of Fame after these messages. Welcome back. This is America in the Morning. Movie mogul Harvey Weinstein faces a new sex charge in New York. With that, here's correspondent Margie Zaraletta.
A new indictment charges Harvey Weinstein with forcing himself on a woman in 2006. The woman is not one of the 2 accusers from Weinstein's previous case that led to his conviction in 2020 in New York. Weinstein is awaiting a retrial on those original charges after New York's highest court dismissed his conviction. The retrial was tentatively scheduled to begin in November, but it's likely to be delayed.
We're vehemently opposed to consolidation. This is a new case that was handed down today from 2006. We have a lot of work to do. We have to find out who the person is. We have to do an investigation regarding who that person is.
Defense attorney Arthur Aidala says Weinstein has no idea who his new accuser is.
Obviously, if I asked any human being, like someone in 2006 is accusing you of something, let's take a guess.
Judge Curtis Farber says he will rule next month on whether to fold the new charges into the retrial. I'm Archie Zaraletta.
Keeping your food fresh for over 70 years. Correspondent Jennifer King reports that the iconic Tupperware brand is filing for bankruptcy.
Remember Tupperware parties? Well, the 1946 company that revolutionized food storage has filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy, although it says it plans to keep operating and will seek court approval for a sale. Tupperware brands soared in the mid-century as a way for women to start their own businesses and saw a brief resurgence in the early days of the pandemic, with more customers cooking at home. But in general, sales have been declining since 2018, with rising competition from cheaper brands. There were warning signs. In recent months, the company sought financing to stay afloat and received non-compliance notices for failing to file its annual results with the Security and Exchange Commission. Tupperware CEO Lori Ann Goldman, formerly of Spanx, maintains that the brand isn't going anywhere and says the bankruptcy process is meant to provide flexibility as the company aims for a technology-led transformation. I'm Jennifer King.
Finally today, the Toy Hall of Fame is out with its annual list of finalists for the top plaything. Correspondent Julie Walker reports.
Balloons, trampoline, and apples to apples are part of the 12 finalists for the National Toy Hall of Fame. Spokesperson Chris Bench, who is also chief curator at the Strong Museum, says it's always been a creative list.
Whether it's something that isn't actually produced to be a toy. In 2005, we inducted the cardboard box into the National Toy Hall of Fame because of the great play qualities that boxes can have.
This year's nominees also include Choose Your Own Adventure game books, Hess toy trucks, remote-controlled vehicles, The Stick Horse, Phase 10, Sequence, Pokemon trading card game, My Little Pony figures, and Transformer figures. Expert judges and the public vote on which to induct in November. Julie Walker, New York.
America in the Morning for Thursday, September 19th, 2024 is produced by Jeff McKay, senior producer Kevin Delaney. I'm John Trout. This is Westwood One.